words.
Oh.
Where's
I call this meeting to order at 6:30 on March the 7th, 2024. And I will do roll call first. Mayor Pro Tem Villalobos, Matthew McGovern,
here?
Nick Styler,
Here.
Michael McLeod,
Here.
Sam Clinton,
Here.
and I'm Mayor Glaze. If you could all rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
and to the Texas flag.
Under the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And then please remain standing for the invocation. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, Lord God, we are so grateful to be here and to be able to serve the people of Martindale. Lord God, I thank you for each and every council member, and I thank you for the rain. And I just ask for your guidance, Lord God, in every decision that we need to make tonight. And we are very grateful for the gift of salvation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, we do have a public comment. Charlie. Charlie Owen.
It won't take long. I have a suggestion that will bring people into Martindale, and that is to put a electric vehicle charging station somewhere here on Main Street. Electric vehicles may be a little, some like them, some don't, but I believe if we put a charging station here, we would attract customers to downtown, to duets, to the cafe, to whatever. And that would happen because the EV users have apps that tell you what is available, who's available charging. So things I've read, sometimes they're not available. So a lot of traffic on Highway 80, maybe even Tollway 130 could bring people in here. There are turnkey companies that will do that. They'll take a bit of the revenue because there's revenue from these charging stations. And so, but they could do the maintenance, they could do the customer service, and you probably get a smaller bit of the revenue. I did try to talk to Bluebonnet about it. They didn't really want to talk to me because I'm not in the city council or part of the city or something. So I would suggest that, and I'll leave this with Mary. I might have sent you an email a while back about something. Okay. But I think it's a good idea, and if you want me to help, I will help.
Perfect.
Okay,
Thank you, Charlie.
Welcome.
Thank you. It's great.
Okay, we will go ahead and move on. I did have a couple of announcements that are not on here. I just wanted to tell you that I have talked to TDS and they are ready to do the citywide cleanup April 20th, Saturday, April 20th. So I hope y'all can be available.
April 20th.
Yes, April, it's before Earth Day. And we have the Gary John Corps volunteers all lined up and TDS.
We have Sean McDonald lined up.
I don't have him lined up.
They're getting him badly.
And we are arguing about mattresses. They are gonna charge us more than $100 for each mattress. Jeez.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
So I'm still trying to work that out.
Much as we pay those people.
Okay, and then the other thing is, you may have noticed all these boxes back here. They're all permits, like from the beginning of time. And so we only have to really keep the last 5 years and any replats and certain little things, but we know what we have to keep. Most of the rest, we're just trying to create a master list where we just put in like 5 or 6 things in an Excel sheet to show that address, somebody had a building permit at one time, whether it was just to put a roof on a house or whatever. anyway, I had two beautiful ladies that came in this morning who are gonna volunteer for 2 hours once a week. And that is Pat Fowler and Cecilia Murphy. And so they were kind of learning the ropes. And they'll put all of the ones that we think need to be discarded then in a box. And staff will go over it to make sure that nothing important is getting thrown away. But if you know of anybody who could give a couple hours a week, who's retired and just looking for something to do, and they're good enough on the computer, to just type in 5 things on each line, I'd appreciate it.
And so, wait, let me ask, so you're scanning these copies or you're just saving the ones
Not
you want to
these.
save?
Because these are 217 back to 1982. So we're just trying to create a master list so that we know all the permits that we've had. That's all we have to keep, is a log of all the permits. That's what the state says we need to keep.
You have a designated time that you're thinking about doing this?
No, if a volunteer wants to volunteer during office hours, they can tell me, and if it's not when somebody else is here, then we're open.
Is it
Mondays is
better if
probably,
you got 2 at a time or 1 at a time?
I think 2 at a time might work because then they can kind of feed off of each other, and that worked with these 2 ladies today. They did 17 files, but I'm thinking that as they get more used to going through it, that they'll probably do about 50, next time or in a few weeks. Okay, so I have a proclamation that I'd like to do for Women's History Month. And whereas in 1980, an association of women's groups known as the National Women's History Project successfully lobbied for national recognition from President Jimmy Carter, who issued a proclamation that year recognizing the week of March 8th as National Women History Week. President Ronald Reagan continued the tradition until 1987, when Congress designated the entire month of March as Women's History Month with the passage of Public Law 100-9. Since then, every president has issued an annual proclamation designating the month. Whereas throughout history, women have changed the world through entrepreneurship, politics, education, and philanthropy. Sorry, can't say that. This is equally true of Texas women, who have made their influence felt from our earliest settlers to today. Whereas the women of our state and nation have risked their lives, fortunes, and reputations to build upon the legacy of the past. Their determination, ingenuity, and spirit are an inheritance that will be treasured as we continue to build a prosperous future for Texas and the United States. And I did borrow some of this from Governor Abbott. Whereas the observance of Women's History Month calls our attention to the rich and diverse heritage of the city of Martindale, Texas. That is why I would like to recognize Sonia Gonzalez Villalobos for her tireless contributions to the city of Martindale and Caldwell County. In the spirit of notable Texas women such as Emma it's Tenayuca, who was an American labor leader, a union organizer, and an educator. Sonia also volunteers her time to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Whereas the city of Martindale continues to work towards becoming an inclusive community in which all citizens, past, present, and future, are respected and recognized. And now, therefore, I, Catherine Glaze, Mayor, City of Martindale, Texas, do hereby recognize the month of March 2024 to be Women's History Month. I encourage all citizens to learn more about the history and accomplishments of women as we follow their example and inspire the next generation of Texas women. And the colors for, the month are supposed to be green, white, and purple, and I had to bling it up a little bit. So there you go. Thank you. You're welcome.
Good job, Mayor.
Okay, so we will now move on to the wastewater report.
That's quick.
First in line.
Yeah. Alright. This month we pumped, 1,144,090 gallons into the wastewater plant, and we averaged about 39,451 gallons. And the maximum flow was 140,850. The minimum was 18,150. And not to get to the, I guess, the maintenance part of the system, we but I'm gonna try to remind you all of the last time when we had that deragging of the pump in Farmdale Apartments. That night when I left in the wee hours of the night, we got another alarm, so. But anyway, we derag the pump, put it back in the wet well. And, but that afternoon I went to the, like I said, I went over to the manager's office, and nobody was there, of course, and so. I called the number that was on the door and it was disconnected, so. So I did my part, then, I jumped to another part of, in the mayor and Jared and Adrian did a very good job. We did some education deal here for the customers. And, just, let them know what they can put into the wastewater system.
And so normally when there's a rag in there,
Mhm.
you have to take it apart,
We gotta
or
take it-
what do you do?
We gotta take the whole pump apart.
You- you-
It's got a bottom up part, we call it a loop. Then you fill it and all that, drop that off. And plus, then it's a nasty mess too. It's not a pleasant deal to mess with.
You can charge it. You need to charge it.
And I did my part on that. I did the job.
Excellent.
And but that's a good documentation there for the customer. I guess they put it in the billing statement.
Yeah.
But there's no, you can't contact anybody. Disconnected number, no
Yeah.
email, nothing.
No. Maybe the mayor might have some contact information.
Do you go to the CAD?
I know that, I reached out to the manager there for another inquiry that I had. And the manager that's there is only there like a couple of times a week, cause they do 7 other properties. So she rotates, but if you leave a message, slide it in the box. I had to call twice, I left a
Yeah.
voicemail, and then finally she returned the call, so.
But this one went straight into that it was disconnected phone. Unless they had another phone. I don't know if do they have another phone there?
It's the one that was on the sign.
Yeah, that's the one I called. And it goes back to Louisiana. So, yeah. And because I knew the people that built that place. I think Calhoun owned that place.
Yeah, so it's just managed by a management.
Yeah. So, but I made my effort on that.
Back charge, back charge.
No, that's good.
That's
good.
We should be charging those people every time that happens.
But
They'll get the message then.
other than that problem, we had no problems at the lift station. So everything was running really good. And we did no irrigation. We're getting ready to start irrigating because we're getting to the warmer months of the year. And I need a few more connections that I gotta make on that new sprinkler there. So, do that, so. And also we collected our monthly sample for the DOD and the pH. We recorded all the info and readings and calculated the flow daily. We checked the pH on the ponds daily as well. And the pH has been doing pretty good. We started treating that wastewater again because summer's coming to start getting hot and algae start moving again. And then your pH will go up. Also, we checked all the wiring, the panel boxes and controls. I replaced that valve, Jared, just 3-inch recirculation valve on the
Nice.
on that line. And we also got about 4 foot of freeboard.
Wow.
Wait, 4 foot of what?
Freeboard.
Oh, freeboard, nice.
And
Those chemicals that eat the sludge out must be really working.
yeah, I talked to the guy not too long ago, the guy that sold the product.
Yeah.
He he said start doing it about right now, because that's when it starts.
So,
getting
Warm
hot.
up, yeah.
So what was the free board for the
We had we would have to irrigate a lot, you know.
We were full.
So it's dropping how much did it drop?
4 feet.
4 feet.
Maybe 3.
Yeah, during the,
Oh, 4 feet. I got you.
during the last summer, when it dropped,
That's
it went down
impressive.
to about 6 foot. Yeah, so,
That's impressive.
yeah.
Good job, good, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, and,
just take care of those rags, that'll be fine.
that's out of my control there. I don't know. Okay, like I said, I can't control people's behaviors. And, I got a quote here, and I think I shared it with the mayor and Jared, I guess, to clean the sewer lines here in town. And it's part of it, it's just an 8-hour deal. It takes about a day and a half to clean those lines, because it's a lot of sections of it. You gotta push everything to the lift stations, and after that, you gotta,
I hate to be repetitive, what did it cost us to get that rag? How much money did it?
I can't recall that. The mayor might, though, I don't know.
About
Okay.
3,000-ish.
$3,000
No, for the
rag?
for that, the regular, the pump we did last month. That service.
Oh, yeah. Oh, we can get you a cost.
Yeah, I don't
Hey,
know.
we gotta do something.
I don't know right off the bat.
Talk about your service.
And,
Yeah.
and also,
Probably the same person doing it, but I won't say.
if y'all want to make a decision that you could tell the mayor, and I can get with the mayor later on that, on the maintenance for the sewer line.
Yeah. We talked about it, but last Monday, but I guess we didn't make a decision.
Okay. Just let me know, I guess, because
Yeah.
it hasn't been done in years. I don't want nothing to clog up on the main lines and stuff. And, I know Jared's on top of that little repairs for the lift stations and all that, so I'm not gonna, he told me to remind you all, so I'm reminding you all again.
Yep.
You need to remind.
So that's all I got. If you all have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer.
I looked at briefly at the sorry, at the estimate, it was 2,000, I think, to clean the sewer lines.
It's for 8 hours. If it goes into another half a day, it's another, maybe for half of the 2,000.
So which line, are you talking about all the lines?
The whole thing.
8 hours to do the whole town.
Well, we've done it in a day and a half. That's what I just said earlier.
It's probably gonna be 3 then.
Yeah.
Somewhere around that area. This, yeah, like I said, it depends how dirty they are.
So that's just one day of work.
8 hours. And they put it there 8 hours.
Yeah, 2,000.
Yeah, because they gotta use the machines, and then I gotta buy some water from the water supply company too, so.
I hate to keep lingering about this rag. I think you're talking about.
I don't think you hate it.
Is there any possible way we could put some kind of string right downstream? and let it plug-
We're
let it
fine
plug
with
their
that.
system?
We talked about that in the
Uh,
past,
we need to make sure it plugs their system, I'm not. No?
and that's what we stated on that paper that's gonna happen to their house.
So it probably wouldn't, they need to have to change their behavior. If it plugs their system, not ours, we don't have to worry about it.
We're meeting with other nearby local municipalities next week. We have a meeting scheduled for Monday. We're talking with San Marcos on how they address these type of issues.
Good.
Yeah.
Trying to expand our network and learn from other people's experiences.
That's by the way,
Yeah.
they,
We started with the letter.
That's Adrian's taking the lead
That's a
on
good
that.
idea.
I'll be quiet.
Yeah, 'cause-
I'm done.
I mean, other than that, I don't know what else to say.
Dwayne had a question.
Oh, back earlier in the report, you mentioned the flow levels, the low and the high. So we've got, it's like 10 times higher on some days than it is the
Well,
other.
it's, I include the days that are, like on the weekend, we don't get the readings on, like on the weekends.
That's 3 days worth.
Yeah, 3 days. worth.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, what happens that it just,
It's come up some, since we started that new restaurant started. That's good in a way, it's more business for the city. And, what else? In that paper there, a friend of mine had a problem like what we have here with that lift station here, so he was spending about maybe $20,000 a year on pumps. And they finally, but they get the state involved. And they got on that, it was a hotel, they were dumping a bunch of rags. locations and stuff. How they get there, don't ask me, I guess.
Huh.
But you see all kinds of stuff in the wastewater,
I could only imagine.
yeah. So,
And just in my opinion, like, I like the letter, it's a little bit wordy. I know that probably what would work is maybe just like a reminder, like maybe pictures, or, you know, just like something like that to make it less verbiage. But then also, the letters only in English.
Yep.
Unless y'all did do them in Spanish, which a majority of the residents that do live in that area are Spanish speakers, so whatever, everything that's on the paper, if they're only a Spanish-speaking family, they're not even gonna understand it.
but since we listed that out, we haven't had any more issues. Keep my fingers crossed, but you're right about that. Sonia, you're right about that.
Yeah.
They need to publish it.
Sixth grade level,
Yeah.
sixth grade level,
That's,
pictures
it's,
are
there's a lot of
great.
work on there, I would just get
The
it.
more, because, you know,
That's what I'm saying.
you listen to that right there, they may say, we didn't tell me this,
You know.
so you gotta give it a whole.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Okay.
I'm not being partial in any way with that.
Mhm.
Also, I made it known to everybody,
Yeah, good.
but that's all I got.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, you know, like in Mexico, because there they have a lot of issues with their plumbing and like, people get it over there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's really simple signs and people understand, do not flush your paper in the toilet.
Yeah, pictographs.
Yeah.
That's a good thought. Yeah, we keep that paper, we all need it for references.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to the city accountant, to the January financial statement.
Okay. Folks, you see here the bank statement balances of the city as of March 4th, when this report was submitted. You see the general fund at 86,826, and the other major fund is the utility fund, 14,474. Those are the main funds we operate through week in and week out. See $136,000, 136,217 in operating funds at First Lockhart Bank. Our emergency fund is at $255,000. And then you see our investment account is just shy of $600,000. Plus the capital money is $96,000. There's a balance of $1,087,000 as of before. And our amount due to the comptroller is now down to $272,843. Any questions on those accounts? Let me see if there's anything that I remember happening in particular in any of those. No, other than I continue to put money in the park mobile, but it's down to only a few $100s in a month at this time of year.
Wow.
I assume that's about to pick up. So anyway, I've seen those tow truck drivers through here a few times. I bet it'll really pick up when those guys get to work. But anyway, next page, I guess. This is the budget report for the general fund. You see October through January, so what you're looking at, like a third of the way through the fiscal year. You see our total income at $406,000, 58% of the budget. You see our property tax revenue at 80% through January. We'll see the majority of that in by the time we look at the February report. And you all may remember there were some delays in getting out the bills in Hayes County. And I think that affected the speed that people pay Caldwell County and therefore our taxes as well. So if you go on down the personnel section, if we're 33% through the year, you see all of those line items, with the exception of workers' comp that's front loaded, are within budget percentage wise.
You pay that for the whole year in advance?
No, quarterly it even means.
So, but you said we're gonna be over budget on that.
We probably will because there was an audit that I had to pay. I want to say it was a couple of $1,000s because our payroll last year was significantly higher with our police force being fully staffed than the initial estimate. So we probably will be over budget for that for the year. You see the payroll reimbursement from the utility fund to help offset payroll for their staff. And then we've got operating expenses of $34,000 for the city with the, looks like the biggest expenses for the month or property, or excuse me, for the year to date are insurance and software. But once again, that section is at 33%, so that looks to be in line.
Can I ask a question about the park expense? We're gonna be talking about the budget later with them. We spent almost, what, $4,500? Is that mostly mowing?
Yeah, I'd have. to
Right, Sam, what else did you spend it on?
Well, I mean, that does seem like a lot. That does seem like a lot for what, 3 months?
Yeah. I can drill into the details after I sit down.
6.
It's 6 months.
No.
6.
Yeah.
4 months.
Four
This
months.
is 4 months.
But
It's only through January.
it's water, garbage,
Those
porta
porta
potties,
potties are like over $300 a month. The water bill's only about 50.
Are we paying for the big dumpster out of the park budget, the one that's behind our building?
No, not that I'm aware
Oh,
of.
like,
no.
why did it-
And so like, the Fannin Street lots are not park, and so those are not included. The Triangle's not included. Hobson Ranch isn't
The
included.
lift stations.
Lift station, okay.
So how much is so we have, our basic expenses, water, porta potty, and mowing.
Trash can.
There is some lighting.
Yeah, trash can.
There is a
Lighting.
little bit of electricity, water.
Well, it's $75 to have a meter now with the water company, so,
Two of them, two water meters.
so that's
How many
150. So
trash
that's-
cans we have? Oh,
Oh, look, yeah, because that's why.
Just two at base.
He's doing this.
600. It's not close though.
Down the road.
Yeah, that's over $1,000 a month.
What is it? mowing?
250.
And how many times a month?
It's a couple times.
So
It's
500.
it's 250 to mow phase one and 250. Well, Bates has been mowed by volunteers pretty much so far.
So 250 a month. for
And
one time.
Gargiola.
What about that guy, Sam, that was picking up the trash?
Ruben?
The young guy isn't
Yeah.
doing it
Right.
anymore. It's
Yeah.
just me and Jeff.
Uh-huh.
So the toilet fee is, do we know?
300 a month, so
300?
1,200.
It's over 300.
So 400 a month for the toilet. Okay.
Trying to get it fired up here. It's just a little.
Because we have to figure that in. We're gonna be doing this next budget, and that's gonna factor into.
one for each park.
Yeah. I think it's 165 and 150 something a month for each one.
So it's 350 to 400 a month for the toilet.
Hmm.
The water bill's 250, the electric bill's 100.
Well, we can take a closer look at that.
But we have a general idea, we're trying to get a ballpark. So
I mean, a
755.
big,
Right?
there's one, there's one,
We can close in winter.
the largest expense in here is $1,000 for asphalt for Allen Bates Park. He put asphalt on the parking lot or something?
Road
Yes,
base.
a driveway, yeah, that's a little high, but I mean, that's what.
All the others are $100 here,
Oh, that's right. We did.
but that's the biggest expense.
There was a great big hole
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it was.
The question, do we need toilets there? What do you need that for? Yes, can we cut back on it? I mean, it's not much use. And one toilet.
People drive by and just run out of their cars and go use the restroom. It isn't just used for park use.
Well, that's the problem.
Not so much. I mean, we don't have any public restrooms in the city.
You know, nothing
Oh,
about.
well, we can talk about parks and Rec later.
Okay.
They're all subject.
Let's get back
Let's
to
go on
the
down
report.
Sorry to distract you guys.
So, we get to the bottom line for all of this. Where are we? Oh, my goodness. Oh, here's the contractual extension. I forget those. You see the library contribution was remitted there. So, on those expenses were nearly 40%, but that one line item is, you know, at 100, big number.
So I see the audit fees is 3,000, but this audit that we're gonna look at tonight was paid for out of fiscal year, before money.
Some, that money there, probably needs to be accrued into the prior year, but, hadn't happened yet. That'd be a discussion I'd have with them.
Okay.
On down to the bottom. Whoops. So you see $159,308 excess of income over expense in the general fund so far. Here's expenditures for the month. There. Oh, see that big comptroller public accounts, that's quarterly there, that 18,000. That's the state's portion of the traffic citations. That doesn't hit our expense line, that's just remitting of the money that we hold back from the tickets. Okay. Move on. See, there's your amounts for Texas disposal. Those are the porta potties. 103 and 166. Or how much?
Wow, okay, perfect, thank you.
There's that, see that $6,000 to the risk pool. That's the insurance that I mentioned earlier.
Fudge, not fudge.
Okay, I think next should be the utility fund. Brought in $112,248, 30% of the budget. So that looks like that's behind a little bit. Expenses, 112,773. Talking net of $525 loss.
What's an example of administration overhead expense? Because that's $16,000.
Yeah, that's a calculated number. If you go back up to the revenue, that is 15% of the 112,000. That is, you said an example, costs of this building, utilities, all of that, administration of us three to administer the business of the utility fund. That's what that covers. It just goes back over to the general fund to offset.
Postage.
Yeah, postage.
Yeah, you've been picking the round numbers, you know.
Yeah,
percentage-wise.
we tested it a few years ago. It was
Close.
quite accurate.
Yeah, it's close. It's something that we might look at as we go into the budget season for this next fiscal year. We've had to adjust rates several times to try to keep up. That percentage-based adjustment that we do for salaries and administrative overhead might be something we look at to trim costs within that fund, because that fund has run negative the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And so we've tried to raise rates into it. It hasn't worked. I think we need to start trimming costs and have the general fund put more of the bill for those things as we get into the next budget also.
But once again, those are not direct expenses. So if we were to change that, we would lower that to 12% or something like that. It would just be a change in the calculation. Okay. So that's.
What's the outflow and grounds maintenance, 6,250? That's just the budgeted amount, the 6,000, and you didn't spend any in that quarter? But what do you mean ground maintenance, like other than the parks?
This is gonna be for the,
Treatment plant.
for the treatment plant grounds maintenance.
Oh, outflow of the, when you mow the sewer treatment fields?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's budgeted for about 5 rounds.
And I'd be willing to bet that I've got a couple of payments in 70/90 that really belong there.
Yeah.
I always forget it has its own line item just for mowing, but it's $1,250, every other month, seems like. Maybe not that often, but.
Mhm.
It takes him 3 days to mow it.
Push mow?
No, he's got a big tractor.
Oh, yeah, he drove, I saw him.
On the solid waste, what does they charge us a year for that
So you
service?
see that 180,000.
180,000.
We're right on.
I think they can afford to take a couple mattresses,
I used to take things over there to them and they're real wiggy about wire. And mattresses have a lot of wire.
Wire.
I don't know what the deal is with wire, but they don't like it.
When the land machines drive over the mattresses, if they're in the landfill, the wires become loose and get stuck in the undercarriage of the tractors
Is that what
and
it is?
machinery, yes.
Okay. All right, the next page should show the expenditures in detail, live on it. Yeah, there's Cody, he's the one that mows the plant.
So that should show up under,
Yeah, that
70,
needs to
80.
be mowed down to that, I moved down to that, other one. Mowed down.
mow down, choice.
Here's your monthly check to Texas Disposal, if you're wondering.
Chuck E. Cheese.
And there's Pete's expenses for the month. I don't think the rag cost as much as we were discussing. We don't have any really big bills from him, and I've got more this week and they're not big.
It'd be nice to know we could break that down though, just for,
Yeah, I mean, we can look it up. He doesn't bill us that many times a year. It wouldn't be that hard to figure out.
What is the contract up against for our trash?
It was a 10-year agreement in 2018.
Okay, like four.
Yeah.
4 more years.
do we have any, maybe I'll change, I'll be quiet for a minute. Go ahead. I'm not gonna address that mattress again.
Oh, I thought you were gonna bring up the
Talk about the
rag.
This is the.
Yeah, we got that.
revenue fund.
You're on.
You see the
$100.
various restricted type money that comes in. We brought in $25,000 through January of the $68,000 budget, and I don't think we've spent much this fiscal year. If you go down to expenses. Yeah, just some software costs for the court. So we've been out, so. There's that, and I think that's it.
All right.
So that's our report for January. Right now, obviously, we have the auditor here tonight. He'll discuss his report. I'm in the middle of implementing the new software program that you guys approved a couple of months ago. And I've spent, a good amount of time in the past couple of weeks, and we're supposed to train on Tuesday. And our first utility bills go out in the new system on the 18th. So there'll be a new look. So we'll see how that works. And what that will do is the software, what it will do for me is we'll be able to have reports that look more like this audit, that have, governmental activities, business type activities, total. It'll look more the way a city's finances should look by the time we get this software implemented. So that's it from the accounting desk, I guess. Oh, John Both.
Oh,
Say it right?
John. We spoke on the phone.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you, and appreciate all your time. Now, this is a pretty thick report, so I don't think you want to go through this page by page. So
Line by line.
I'm going to cut to the chase, and we're going to just hit on some things that I think might be of most interest to you. Bottom line is, we issued two opinions, two reports. One of them is our audit opinion. The other one is a report on internal controls and compliance with laws and regulations, which is our yellow book report. For government agencies, we have to use applying government auditing standards when we're performing our audits. So in both cases, our opinion is what we call an unmodified opinion. So, I guess you can call it a clean opinion, but really what we're saying in an unmodified opinion is that we believe that the financial statements as presented are fairly stated within an immaterial amount in accordance with government accounting standards. And that opinion, that actually takes about 4 pages. And it's located on pages 2 through 4.
Then you use the word fairly?
Let's see. Yeah, present fairly. So in our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly. In all material respects, the respective financial position, the governmental activities, business type activities of each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund information of the city as of September 30th, 2022, and respective changes in its financial position, and where applicable, cash flows thereof for the year then ended in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. That's basically our report. The rest of the opinion talks about responsibilities of management, auditors' responsibilities, and then we discuss, supplementary information that's being included. Now, I'm going to just briefly touch on a few of the schedules that are contained in the management's discussion and analysis, which are pages 5 through 13. But I'm not going to go through every page. If you turn to page 9, page 9 is it's kind of a high level aggregated bird's eye view of the city's governmental activities and business type activities as it relates to balance sheet. So the statement of net position is what we call, it's the balance sheet, same thing. So you'll notice in looking at this report, the very second to the last column is it combines all of the 2022 assets and liabilities into different activities. So governmental activities, business type activities. So we ended the year with total assets of about 3.7 million. So it was up slightly from the year before, which was about the same, 3,753,000. So assets in total didn't increase by much. Your liabilities, they decreased slightly, so there wasn't much of a change in those. So you'll notice total liabilities went from 505,000 to 501. But I do want to make one distinction. In that line, current liabilities, there's an amount of 400,997. In that number is the Texas liability that the city's been paying off for the last number of years. That amount is 307,000 of that 400,000. And it went down from the prior year from about 336,000 down to about 307. So you paid down about roughly $30,000 on that during the year. So overall, you'll notice your net position, which is equity. They're divided, equity is divided into three different categories, three different buckets. You've got your net position that is invested in capital assets. And you have the restricted net position, and you have unrestricted. So invested in net capital assets, about 2.9 million of it is in those hard assets, and then you have the restricted funds, which are tied up in cash deposits that are restricted, about 108,000, and then your unrestricted is 195,000, which is available for general use. So if you look at your balance sheet, fund by fund, and year to year in total, not a whole lot of change from the prior year.
Quick question on there. Looking at the current and other assets and the business type activities, and then also in the unrestricted net position, that's essentially showing negative cash and current assets for the most part, right?
Yeah.
And so that's showing where deficits, budgetary deficits are hitting year after year. I'm surprised by the 96,000. Maybe it's because of the current liabilities number. I'm not sure what goes into that, but I think
One
that's
thing you gotta
pretty good.
remember is,
The depreciation, is that where it's?
well, the depreciation is, yeah, I mean, actually, that is gonna be part of it because your depreciation was, let's see.
Not that much. I saw it on the cash
Like
flow.
40,000, somewhere in there.
I'm just curious what kind of liabilities we're taking in the utility fund. Because we don't,
You talking about accumulated depreciation, is that what you're looking for?
Well, I'm talking about depreciation expense for the year. Accumulated depreciation is much higher than that, but that's part of the.
There are liabilities in the utility fund to the general fund from like 10 years ago. It's like we got upside down and the general fund had to bail out the utility funds like a number of years. And that shows up at the top of my report when we show the expenditures each month. It shows that one like still outstanding. It's 60-something thousand dollars, if I remember right.
that's what it was in end of 2022. Okay. And it's essentially, it's those two numbers combined, the current liabilities plus the negative current assets is showing up there. And so to fix that, how do we fix that without creating the same issue of running into more liability of transferring funds between the two general fund, government activities to business activities without incurring another 60-some odd thousand liability between the two funds?
What is?
Well, I don't know that there is a way to remedy it because the utility fund doesn't have the money to pay back the general fund ever. You're gonna have to raise fees, you're gonna have to sell assets.
Is that something where we could write it off as bad debt in one of our audit years? And
No.
Okay.
the reason why you have a deficit it's depreciation, which is a non-cash. So you'll notice if you turn to the next page, page 10,
Vehicles?
what's that?
What's depreciating in the utility?
The sewer system.
The sewer system itself,
The infrastructure.
You know, we don't show the sewer system as an asset.
well, we do on this official report.
Forget.
And then for, of what value?
At historic cost. So you see here, it's says capital assets net and business type
What page
activities,
are you
one,
on? Page you?
yeah, 9.
Yeah.
And you look on the fourth line where it says capital assets
Yep,
net,
yep.
go over to business type activities, column 22, 1,339,000. That's the historic investment.
You can also look at page 13 and it'll show you how that breaks down by land, buildings, infrastructure.
So infrastructure would be the sewer system,
Has to be.
600,000 is business type,
Yeah.
that would be the sewer system.
But how come it wouldn't show like consistently, like depreciation,
That is,
like consecutively?
it is expensed each year, I mean. We haven't gotten to that page yet that has depreciation on it.
So depreciation, everything is depreciated on a straight line basis. And, you know, as you use up the asset, you know, the cost basically matches what the accumulated depreciation is. And as you add assets, you start depreciating straight line. So your depreciation should be fairly consistent from year to year, except for when you add new stuff that needs to be depreciated. So,
Well, then if like the line there, it's 623,075 for 21 and 22, how come there's no change or any appreciation then in the infrastructure
well, that is.
from one year to the next?
That is showing, well, let's see.
It's for the straight line, right?
So what you're looking at there.
I just wonder why they're exactly the same.
That's because we haven't bought any more infrastructure or capitalized any more infrastructure.
Oh, so it just remained the same because you
Yeah,
didn't
that's-
make any improvements or
Yeah.
anything?
That's
I see. Okay.
Is that what you said?
I was kind of leading to the question in, it's something that's been happening for as long as I've been here. You know, going on our 4th or 5th year, this might be the 4th audit, is that net position in their business type activities continues to decrease based off of these current and other assets and liabilities. And I don't know how to fix it. As it relates to, as it comes up to this. I know how to fix a budget deficit, right? Cut spending, add more revenue. But I don't know how to get on top of this continued negative number in my unrestricted net position.
It's not uncommon
Okay,
in a utility fund like that to
Yeah.
have a deficit position, because typically it is the depreciation.
Yeah.
And if the utility fund needs cash, you can always, you know, the board can always, or the city can always appropriate that and transfer it.
so it's not something we should be concerned about. I mean, I'm just thinking 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line, and that number grows into be a very large number. What does that mean? How does council consider that? Is it something we need to get ahead of, or is it just a number
Way of the world.
that's just buried in the accounting charts, but doesn't really affect our cash position because we're continuing to cash flow adequately? Or is it going to be one of those things where it catches up and then like,
Yeah, well, at some point, this $2.7 million you have that's
Will
not,
depreciate to
that's
zero.
not land is
Yeah.
gonna depreciate to zero, and you're gonna have a bunch of buildings, improvement and infrastructure that are worth nothing.
Right.
and you're gonna have to spend another $2 million to replace it.
Right.
Which I think we've had those conversations.
But then if you're, then when you're, if you take the capital assets out of the equation and the restricted assets out of the equation. Or negative.
The 96?
Yeah, the 93 to 96.
Yeah, so it
just-
it increased $3,000, yeah, from last year.
And then,
Basically telling us
Yeah, there's
there's no money to be made in wastewater.
Well, I mean, I guess if you wanted to.
Not when you're having the bill, when you're having, the council's having to vote to increase the rates to reduce it.
you know, in the year, in 2020, it was 69, in 2019, I believe, if I'll go back to that, it was 40. So, you know, in 3 audit years, we went from 40,000 to 70,000 to 93,000. This is now 96,000. I'm not sure what's driving those numbers in that way, because I don't, it doesn't necessarily affect the budget deficits that I'm seeing. Budgetary deficit.
But we talked about that, the utility fund needs to run, in theory, if we were to assume that we outsource that. Yes, exactly, we outsource that to a third party, as per some scenarios we worked out.
Right.
You're basically saying we're handing them a loser, as it's conducted in business
Potentially.
currently.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's, obviously, that's not a good thing, per se.
It's a number, it's a numbers.
No, well, no, the concern is that you're using tax dollars from property tax and you're actually applying it for
Mhm.
wastewater and or sewer system repairs, which in theory you're not supposed to. The reason why it's a separate fund is you have a business within the business
Mhm.
of the city. It should run at zero. It should be relatively in line. It should not run a deficit at all. It should be, now, there was some scenarios, you know, stuff happened, you know, we had a, you know, a flood and that impacted stuff and put us in the hole. But we've been running a little bit negative the last couple of years.
Yeah, right.
And so,
Not that hard, but
but like you said, we're getting to that 100,000 number. That's a real number.
It's a real number.
You're really, on a cash basis, you're really kind of operating at break even in the business type
Yeah.
activities. And
Yeah, I know
so
what you're talking, yeah.
if you were to increase your rates sufficient to be able to fund that annual depreciation, then you would start to see yourself crawl out of that hole.
and that's something that you would just use as a seeking savings fund for capital investment later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to, replace your equipment at some point.
So the expense is $46,000 roughly for last year in depreciation. So you've got 400 customers, divide that by 400.
Yeah.
That's how much you'd have to increase rates a year per customer to cover that.
So essentially, what you're doing is you're supplementing the enterprise or the business type activities, utility fund. We need to replace equipment. We need
Yeah.
to.
Yeah, I know. I was just,
So
I knew it was over 100.
basically borrow, I guess, from
Yeah.
the general fund.
No, it's not, it's just that much a year. You'd have to raise everyone's rate about, what, $10
Yeah.
a month?
But if we double our population,
It doesn't always go.
Yeah,
apples to
I
apples.
can't
it
imagine.
doesn't go apples to
This is the
apples.
money making the operation at any level,
No,
but
I appreciate the discussion. It's just, it's something that's,
it's gears going.
Exactly. Gotta keep it in the back.
been thinking about for a while. Each time these things come up and really had an opportunity. We can keep
Yeah,
going
yeah.
on. Keep going on the pages.
depreciation is, the accountants hate discussing that.
Well, no, it's not so much the depreciation, it's how do we get an unrestricted net position of negative $100,000 and how do you get out of it? Without just jacking rates, and if you're jacking rates, but you're still cash flowing, you're going to try to create budgetary surpluses to get that number up, and what are you really paying back?
Or then don't depreciate it as much as we are. That's the only other thing we do.
Find ways to do more capital investment to bump the numbers.
Fast.
Okay, okay, John.
Sorry.
Maybe a little bit of both.
So,
So page 10, the income statement, we've kind of covered it, but just bottom line. You'll notice,
Oh, no.
change in net position is basically net income. And we actually had about a $4,000 net loss in total for the year. Compared to about 286,000 income the year before. And probably the main reason for that income is, it appeared that we received some of that community development money,
So,
I think in the prior year. And I think
Yeah.
that was the
That's
main
all.
reason for that.
Yeah.
And then this year you spent it all. So it's kind of back to normal. If you want to look at the budget, just very quickly, just the general fund budget, I don't know the others, unless you need to look at those. If you go to page 48. So on page 48, you see that, we budgeted about 555,000 for revenues, and we actually got about 599,000. So that's a positive variance of 44,000. But then down below, you'll notice that we spent about 726,000, yet we had in the budget 555,000. The reason why there was a deficit there is that's when we, the capital outlay, that was the community.
Yeah, the road.
Yes, for the roads. So that money that was budgeted in the prior year and used for budget in the prior year was used this year. So we, you transferred from that community fund over to the general fund to what the balance that was in there. So really you're kind of at a break even. You're more of a positive $25,000 change in that fund balance.
I think what that is a police car and Lockhart Street.
Lockhart Street, yeah. Yeah. So smooth all the street money over.
And then, this might shed a little bit of light on your question.
Yeah.
On page 54, this is the utility fund budget. So we budget for a balanced budget every year. And you really did pretty much achieve that. Really, we only overspent by about $1,100. So it's not too bad. So you actually brought in more revenue than you budgeted, spent a little bit more than you budgeted. So the net outflow, the net variance is about $1,100. Anyway, that's my presentation.
Could
Any
you-
questions?
Go to page 40. Just want to make sure I'm interpreting our pension position. It seems like we're very much ahead of our pension liability.
Where's that?
To where we could probably pull back a little bit on how much we're allocating in our budget years towards our pension.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, this is a little delay. This is the end of fiscal year 22, and we're almost, we're a year and a half beyond this point, but
Yeah, so we're,
so
so in other words,
where we're
we've
at.
got $298,000 in position and we only have 258 in liability.
Right, so that's an opportunity for us.
That's over
to-
100% funded.
Yeah, right,
And last class I went to, most cities are in the 70s.
right, so that might be an area where, as we get into the budget, maybe we can
Yeah, we-
reallocate towards other needs.
Yeah, you see well, I don't know if it lists our rate here, but it's, I don't know, it's like 6 or 7% we're supposed to contribute, and we've been budgeting 12 because a number of years ago, we were upside down.
Yeah. Yeah, like. Yeah, starting in 21, we we got on the, we're still owing some.
Yeah, but it was like 97%, I think, in 21. So now we're overfunded.
Yeah, now we're overfunded.
So,
So as we get into the budget, maybe I mean, that could save us.
the
maybe
thing is that, yeah, it could save
$1,000 a
us
year.
for sure, but there's a minimum you have to give them.
Yeah,
That's another
It's
reason to
like-
start cutting back now because
It's like half of what we're sending.
and I'm wondering if the interest rates, things are helping the position on some of these.
Possibly, you know, this though, we're going back. these
22,
numbers
probably
are
not
as
as
of-
much.
Well, these numbers are actually as of December 31st, 2020. So
Okay,
they're lagging, you know, so,
quite laggy.
yeah.
Their
they give us
fiscal
2
years
years back.
is different
Yeah.
from ours, yeah.
So, you know, we should have soon, or you should have soon, information for 2023. So that's 2 years now of more current information.
Yeah, we could definitely discuss that. That is, if we're funding it that far ahead, that's,
There's no need for it.
that's
It's a waste.
That's absolutely a mistake. Yeah. Especially if you have to spend so much, we could be, always overfunding it. Depending, like you said, the rate will actually keep that moving probably.
I know that the state gives us kind of some guidance each year.
Yeah.
Like, hey, instead of doing, 13% of payroll, you can do 12% of payroll
Yeah.
or whatever. And so we've just kept steady the last 3 years, about 12% of payroll cost as our pension contribution. Or this is telling me is, even though the state's saying, 10, I'm like, keep it 12, it's only 2%.
So,
What's the difference?
so when we get the end of last year, then we can
Yeah,
have
and
a
well,
discussion about that.
Probably
for
somewhere
sure.
like we can.
when was the bad year in the market? Was it 21 that it went down or 22?
21. Maybe 21.
The fall of 21?
And it went gangbusters after that.
I thought it went down in
Or it was-
22 and it was up in 23.
No, no way.
Oh,
That's what mine did.
That's what yours did.
That doesn't mean it's universal.
Yeah. Yeah, we
Do you do any audits for any other very small towns? And what do you feel as a comparison? I mean, sometimes I think it's amazing that if we are considered functioning, how much it costs. I mean, compared to other years. No, but I'm
I think it's
saying,
referring to the council.
I mean, considered functioning, we are, but still, we seem to always be, as has been discussed, in the hole. We're just, so in conclusion, what can you tell us as a breakdown of your synopsis of, or your revelation of what you've discovered, and how can you help us figure it out?
So,
You said you had a pulse, right? How do we compare to other towns?
you're not bankrupt, let's just say.
Yeah, there's $1 million in the bank. I mean,
And, yeah, I don't know what it is right now, but as of September 30th, 2022, you had about $600,000. Well, actually, no, 700,000 when you include the restricted cash. But, you're a small government, you're simple, you've got some very predictable sources of revenue that you have control over adjusting, when you need to. It's really kind of in your own hands. I mean, from a financial statement standpoint, I mean, overall, you've got, 3.2 million in positive net position. So you're not negative.
We're a lot more functional than the federal government. is
You know,
by far.
yeah, compare yourself with the federal government. You're really well.
$32 trillion debt.
Maybe I used the wrong word. Well, it's not dysfunctional. I didn't say that.
Started the rabbit hole here, okay? This is your rabbit.
I want to thank y'all for taking just a moment so we could go through this review.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, maybe digging into the numbers that you want to ask further, don't hesitate to to call. You know, I know that Catherine has our contact, Dwayne has our contact information. Actually, we got it here on the letterhead. Feel free to give me a call. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have a quick question for you, and it's, on, the ALG CX 12-2, the audit difference evaluation form.
Oh, okay. Are you talking about our governance?
Yeah.
Okay,
Right here.
yeah,
That one?
okay. So let me tell you a little bit about what we do in audit. These are your financial statements.
Yeah.
We don't make entries unless you guys
Mhm.
say, make these entries, or if we come up with differences, we run them past Dwayne and we say, hey, we recommend this. He looks at it, he approves it, and we post it. Well, we have kind of a level of materiality that we compute on every engagement that we audit,
Mhm.
for every organization we audit. And we say, okay, we're willing to just pass on any differences, but we don't want to spend time going in, finding out more.
And dissecting.
Yeah, it's a way to kind of cut to the chase, and that is what we consider a summary of unadjusted differences. They're it's what we found that is immaterial, and it may be an error, it may not be, we don't know. We just know that there were some excess highway fines that were reported that didn't agree to the confirmed balance that we got from the state.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we could have spent more hours trying to investigate that. But we felt instead to provide that to you, so you guys can decide how you want to address it, and look into that. But
So thank you for bringing that, talking about that, and I wanted to make sure, like in an open session and on record, to say that this should be an eye opener. I know that it is like delayed in information because we are going on a previous year, but with the history of Martindale and what we were in, what we're doing right now, and then to see this, for me as a citizen and as a council member, it's a little bit,
So if I'm reading this right, it says we are overstating the liability.
yes,
It's not as much as we're saying it is. So it's not a shortfall.
mhm.
It's like we are saying for some reason that we owe the state more than they think we owe them.
yeah, so your
So-
liability, so.
It's not like we're behind like
I
we
know,
were.
but it's still just like, there's that discrepancy, and it's not, to me, it's like, whenever you say significant, I guess it's like based on the person and their perspective, but there's still a difference there. And like how the difference is there, why is the difference there, and it's just like, it makes me wonder what's going on.
Well, one thing to notice, and we don't put this in here
Mhm.
for this reason, but who's to say the state isn't the one that's wrong?
Yeah.
I mean, we could actually do more work to figure that out, but it's not material.
Yeah.
It's not a significant error you would consider.
Mhm.
In fact, we don't even know if it is an error, it's just a difference. So,
Let me ask you, have you ever performed an audit that had no error calculated within it?
never,
Okay, and in fact, would you say that it is common for an error such as this to exist within every audit that is conducted?
always. It just,
You
it's,
said aware.
Would you say that this would be what you refer to as an extremely nominal error?
very novel.
And seeing for me as a council member who's been sitting on council for previous years, I don't remember in previous years seeing this. So based on my experience here, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, and that's not questioning what you're saying, but that's what I'm trying to do is help provide. Well, this is our one shot with our expert.
Uh-huh.
And so if we want to understand the nature and the extent of the error
that simply exist within the books, then I think the best way to do that is to ask our foremost expert those questions. Not in questioning what you're saying, because as a council member, I think it's the right thing to do to look at any admitted error and question it. But I'm doing this because I want to be able, for the city's sake, to identify that this is a common thing that is seen in every office. So we're not painted as, say, in this case, an outlier, or this would be seen as an oddity. It's just, it's part of the course.
And well, like he said at the beginning, the city is the one who provides all of the information, so.
But this does not reflect anything we would consider to be fraudulent, because it's actually an understatement of.
Exactly, I'm just asking about the difference. That's it.
And see, the number comes from the state, as he said. You know, we could always ask for a copy of that confirmation from the state, and we could try to figure out how we got out of balance with them. And,
I would say that's always a good thing, because, you know, we're in another scenario where it has something to do with the state, and we, you know, so it's always good to just ask and find out.
maybe we should send them a bill.
Maybe you should.
No.
Tit for tat.
Didn't they just send, didn't they just send us a bill?
Yes, they
On
did.
contrary.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate
We're
it.
happy to get this done, and it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You guys take
Thank
care.
you. Have a nice day.
Okay, could I get a motion to accept this audit?
I'm not going to make the motion
No.
because we just got this in our email. I had a chance to read over some of it. I know we explained some of the pages, but
Well, I'll make a motion to accept the 2021-2022 fiscal year audit.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed?
I am. I just need more time to read it.
Okay, but the motion does carry.
Yeah, so.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the general election, May 4th general election, and Adrian has that information.
Hi, everyone. So just to announce the details of the drawing on the place of the order on the ballot for this upcoming May 4th election. We did a drawing for Councilmember Place 1 and Councilmember Place 3. The results were, oh. There they are. So what you'll see on the ballot for place 1, Don Foster will be first on the ballot and Terry Warner will be second on the ballot for Councilmember Place 1. Nicholas Styler will be first on the ballot and Laura Sanchez Fowler will be second on the ballot.
And we do this just by a simple drawing.
Right.
There were like 4 of us in the office that day.
We held the drawing on February 26th at 12 p.m. So best of luck to everybody. However, this leads me to my next point for Councilmember McLeod, there's a typo here. That since nobody ran against Michael McLeod or Councilmember Place 4, Mike was the only one to fill out for position in Councilmember Place 4. He is unopposed, and I just wanted to let the council know that on record in the open meeting that Mike McLeod is unopposed for this upcoming term, so he'll be here for another 2 years. So as long as he chooses. So if you guys want to applaud or not, you don't have to, but.
Yeah, I
It's like Jeff Bush, please clap.
In Calgary, they were like, very-
Thought he's gonna run for place to leadership.
All right, do that. I've always been placed.
Unless there's any other questions on the upcoming election, that's really it. And just a report from what's next.
Is that gonna be here?
The,
Percent held.
they'll be held at the Caldwell County Elections Office. It'll be held at the Lowland Civic Center. And the main polling location will be here at Three Rivers Church in Martindale.
Will there be early voting
Yes, there will.
in the church?
Yes, there will.
Because we're holding it in conjunction with whatever elections the county is holding.
Is that what, school board or?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to 4.3. We have a police vehicle that the rear end has just went out. Front end has went out. And so we need to ask for some money to fix it.
What does that mean, the front end window?
Okay, our officer is here.
Like, what is it?
So, like most cars have, well, newer cars now have, a modular front end, and it's, all electronic. Instead of power steering fluid and stuff like that, it's got a module that controls that, and so that went out.
Gotcha.
And so you can't steer it at all right now.
It's the Explorer, it's the older one.
We call them the business exploder.
It's a
Well,
Ford,
it's actually not Explorer, it's an Interceptor, but
it's a Ford.
it's a
Oh,
top vehicle.
it's okay.
But anyway, that's what went out, and they need to fix it, and that's the cost to move on Ford.
And where are we taking this out of the budget?
There's a,
Parks.
So there is a line item.
Parks budget, driving through the front.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. At least I'm.
Is it all those patrols in the parks now you all have to do?
So real quick, just a one modular. is
No, the rack and pinion.
All together
Once-
one unit.
once it's all one.
Yeah.
You know how when power steering fluid went out on
Yeah.
cars a long time, it was just real tough to
Yeah.
steer. This is twice as hard, and you can't do anything with it. And
So instead of a power steering
What
column,
year is
so
it?
you got this volume of electronic.
correct. And they gotta replace all. that.
So instead of spending $500 for the power steering column, you gotta spend 3,000.
Yes.
The
I
racket.
had old stuff better.
Much the front end.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so we do budget each year for vehicle repairs. So it's covered under a general fund right now.
But it's above what we can authorize, so. we need
Okay.
to
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve, up to 4,000 for collective maintenance repair of police patrol vehicles.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
And so we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to 4.4. We have two packets that came back for the maintenance of the parks. And I don't know if you remember, but we had a very extensive program that we were asking for someone to put in bids for. And we got two back, so we're very excited about this. And the grass is getting very long in the park, so we're ready for them to start tomorrow.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Why do we have to pay these people year round? Why can't we do 6 months? Like
The contract asks for year-round service.
But, okay, so, we're not gonna mow much grass and our parks aren't used very much, so, can we do a 6-month contract for the summer or for the springs?
Your rates are likely going to change. What we asked for was a firm fixed price, recognizing the different schedule of services between the peak season and the off season, summer and not summer. And then we received those fixed price. If I were in the business, what I'd probably do is spread that cost over the course of the year. if we did a 6-month contract, it's not likely that you would see a 50% reduction in the cost on this effort. You'd
So
still,
about 30% discount. I mean, go ahead, I'm sorry.
you still have to maintain the area.
Maintain and what, you don't have to, okay, what we have to do.
Well, the scope of work is,
You're still mowing until about November. And then you're only not mowing that regularly between November and
Now.
March, yeah. February, March,
What
so,
about if we get into a drought? Which we probably will.
so the good news about using a firm fixed price quote is that the risk is borne by the provider, and the government gets the benefit of them assuming those risks. So if it's really rainy and they have to be out mowing every 4 days, it doesn't cost us no different. Now, on the flip side, it could be a drought, they don't have to mow ever again. But the risk is borne on them by being on a firm fixed price contract. Now, there's probably a small premium in there.
But then they charge us for tree trimming, I mean, I
I don't think,
No,
that
I don't think
$45 an hour, I saw that in.
that was quote number 2. Quote number 1 has it included in their services.
Go ahead, go ahead, do your presentation.
Well, let me just say one thing about what Mike is mentioning about work during the fall. I did a lot of work down in phase 1 during the fall. There's a lot of leaves that fall down in the parking lot, and so you have to clean the parking lots. There's a lot of leaves that fall down on the riverbanks. I mean, the riverbanks themselves in phase 1 were this thick of leaves. I mean, I didn't rake them all up, but occasionally I would just blow them into the river and they would just float downstream. So, but there is clearing that could possibly be done on a small scale, but there is a certain amount of work, not as much as say during the summer or the spring and the fall, but.
Can I add something real quick? I hate to interrupt you.
Yeah, go.
So could we diversify and say, well, these X amount of months we'll mow, and in the wintertime we'll trim trees, which you're supposed to do anyway, limbs, trees, cut trees down, whatever we need to do, and kind of have a flexible, winter program and a summer program.
Shara, though, just.
I mean, we went over these requirements with council
Yeah.
and with the park advisory board, and then with council again, before we posted it. I mean,
And then we
we
agreed
we
to
can
it.
go back to the drawing board if we want to. I don't know.
well, basically, I looked at, it, there are $800 difference between the two.
Yes.
Well, if you look at the second quote, they charge you additional hour per work.
Talking about AJ or is
No,
it?
CY.
Why?
That
shows up first in our thing. That's why I was.
right. So AJ's the first one, which they do everything on a fixed price, about, I believe, running around $2,000 some a month for the entire year, 12 installments. As far as CY or size, they're about 1,500 on the off months and 2,500 in the busy months. It still comes out to about $800 difference. What you'll find in the last page of size is, I'll bring it up here so I don't misphrase what they're saying. Getting close. Look at this next page. Here. Hourly rates. What they included for their tiers of services is ground maintenance and trimming of trees and brush. That's that additional hours that you're talking about, Mike.
That's supposed to be included in the,
That included in.
so are they trying to say they're not gonna do that?
No, but the other quote does say it's included in their fixed price.
So the other quote's the better one.
The other one, the other first.
Right, AJ's.
Can like Sam direct them, like, hey, we need these trees trimmed?
In the
Or
RFP, we did have some language in there regarding providing city direction and
Yeah.
and that they would be provided a single point person to handle that. I think once that's in place, logically would nominate Sam to do it, but it'd be something that we consider separate from this contract. We'd probably do that before we have a kickoff meeting with them. After selection of the vendor, we go back and formulate the contract with them based on their proposal. And after that, we'll have a kickoff meeting once those contracts are signed. At that kickoff meeting is where we'll discuss some of those administrative matters on how the performance will be overseen and that.
So on page 98 of your agenda packet is AJ's services that they agreed to provide. At the bottom, it makes reference to tree trimming, flower bed, rock and mulch installation, design, fertilizer and weed control. I'm not reading these as services quoted outside of the 2,000 some a month. In the RFP, we request that tree pruning be done when directed, or if it's hanging too low.
That'd be part of the fixed price.
Correct.
So what we're going to do, what we'll need to do is draft the contract based off the RFP, not based off of necessarily the proposal, except for the pricing items. Then if that's accepted, then that's what we proceed.
And for AJ's, it says that it will be a 3-year agreed upon contract.
So that's what they proposed, but we're not in the contracting phase. Like Jared said, we'll have to draft the contract for them to sign. They got a little bit ahead. Both parties did the same thing.
I think 3 years is probably sufficient. As long as obviously it's going to have to be framed in terms of options. And it's at our discretion.
Yep.
To exercise, but if we can lock in pricing, oftentimes who knows how the market's going to go in the next 3 years, but in my experience where we've had for fixed pricing that's done multiple years, we end up benefiting from having those prices.
There's no escalation from year to year.
There probably is a little bit, but overall,
I mean, is the contract gonna be written to where it's 15,000 this year, 18 the next?
it likely would be based on whether they're
Cost with the hundreds of dollars, which are only a couple.
There's one detail to bring up about both contracts. They make reference to 4 city parks. We have 3 city parks and that Skull area.
We're getting a new one?
Not to say that, they've just agreed to also clean up the litter and debris at Skulls Bridge, if any, since it is city property. That $20-some thousand
To clean up.
go to the city is included in that service.
And that's for AJ's.
Both of them. We included it in the RFP that we just want regular litter cleanup at the Skulls Bridge.
Not in, is there a feasibility period here where, hey, after 6 months, we're not happy with the service?
Trial period. Like a trial period.
Yeah.
Probation.
Yeah, probation
Well, I
period.
mean, at that point, if we're not happy with the service, they've defaulted on the contract.
Yeah.
And there's other remedies for that. I'd rather hold them to the terms of the contract rather than cancel the contract if I have the ability.
Document failing to perform.
So the only, really the main difference is Psy is charging per hours for the trees. It's included with the price for AJ's. They're both basically offering the same thing. It's just the hourly wage and then the trimming of the trees, which is.
It's very, very minor differences, but I'd rather go with a completely fixed price.
Yeah, instead of.
I prefer, the other one's a corporation with entity outside the state. The other one's over here off of 621.
Mhm.
The one that
If you want to
does
do something that's local, that would
That's what I
check a
prefer.
box for me too.
the local is the one that was one fixed price.
Yes, yes.
No hourly.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I could say, we're gonna have different activities, as long as we can nail down like summer you mow, winter you cut.
It's on there. It's on there.
We described that.
Yeah, you did a great job. It's
Yeah, it looks good.
once a week during the
the dormant months, and the dormant months is every other week at the minimum. And the bathroom is 3 times a week and once a week in the dormant. No, it was, yeah, it's in there. No, you did good on that. I went back and reread it before it came to the.
Is that Aaron Anglin, AJ?
They're,
Who runs the company and AJ?
it's actually not anyone named Aaron. It's, oh, their name's up here.
Tino and Ricky.
Right. Tino and Ricky Alvarez.
Person.
Tino Cardoso and Ricky Alvarez.
So for those, it's two people who would be doing it, and with Sabas, it's,
No, they have a larger team. They're just both owners of the company.
so there's more workers with Sabas.
Oh, no, didn't you say with Tino and
AJ's Lawn Care.
Yeah, how many people do you
they
have
have
working?
more? people.
They have more folks,
They have 2 full-time field supervisors as well.
and then they'll hire as needed. So it seems that they have a pool of people that they network with.
So I'm gonna make a motion to go ahead and approve this submission for the park maintenance services to AJ Lawn Care.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion?
So when are they proposed to, when do we want them to start?
Well, we have
It
to,
depends on how quickly we can contract with them, but maybe by the 1st of April.
So we still have, let's see, March. Oh, so it's pretty much just March through this month to maintain it ourselves or whatever.
Well,
I mean, that-
however
we
quickly we
might-
can get the contract.
Yeah. Probably, I would say 2 weeks to get them on contract, another week or 2 to arrange for a kickoff meeting. And then probably starting performance later that week or the week following. So we're probably 4 to 5 weeks from them starting.
So we currently have 15,888 in the park mobile money. That's about 16,000. We may have roughly about, I don't know how much left in the Dwayne, how much is left in the regular park monies? Like it was 20 something originally.
We still funded the whole year. You know,
We won't be,
There's 16,000 left, February 1st.
And so we have roughly about 32,000 left, 16 and 16. The park mobile is 16 and the other is 16. How often is AJ paid on a monthly basis or?
yeah,
So it's about $2,000 a month. Right. And do they, I'm sorry, I didn't read the whole thing. I've been really busy, but are they putting the garbage in our dumpster?
yes.
yes. For the
And
time.
we're paying for the dumpster. So the only outlying expenses then, as Matthew discussed, would be the water, the garbage, and the porta potty, and the electric. And
That's still coming out of the Parks Fund.
it's about 600 a month, 600 to 650 a month. Addition.
Yeah, there's some meters there.
But do they get allocated to the park? Okay.
and then,
You're basically your new budget for 50,000.
Corporate enterprise bill.
Without
2,000 a month without the,
2,000 a month. No, it's actually, it's a little, it's 2,080 or 90. But you're paying about 650 for water, toilet, electric right now at the parks, roughly 650.
I just hope we start making some good money off the parks for the parking to accommodate for all this. But I mean, we
We
do have a pretty
were
nice buffer.
extremely conservative, I think, on our projections. I think we're going to,
And you remember, we only started after Labor Day last year, after Labor.
After 4th of July.
Yeah, we did it late.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was in
we
July.
put, yeah. I remember. I got volunteered.
Okay,
Okay,
that's all I want to ask.
all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries.
Congrats, AJ's. Congrats, Sam.
No more
Okay, we're gonna
worries.
move on to 4.5, the Clean Water State Revolving Fund and the Martinville wastewater
Crap.
infrastructure fund. And we, well, not me so much, but Jared, Adrian, the engineers, they were really working hard on this for well over a month. So I'll turn it over to Jared and
Yeah, so, this was initially scheduled for last week, but I think we wisely punted. Just want to give you an update on where the project sits and where the lessons learned on the Clean Water State Revolving Fund project information form that we set up. The next slide. All right, so, kind of recap where we were before we started this project and what our intention was going into it, and then what kind of followed from that. So the backstory is we haven't been successful in negotiating a development agreement that's been signed, sealed, delivered on acquiring a treatment system or developing treatment facilities out of a development agreement. Also, we haven't been successful in negotiating wholesale treatments with private providers or retail services through private providers. So coming out of the negotiations of the development agreement over the summer and failure to come to terms with potential terms with the private party last year, City Council directed us to look at obtaining funding for regional wastewater treatment plant outside of the development agreement, outside of, selling to a private provider. Our objectives that we wanted to capture in attaining that goal was design a system that we be able to leverage in our development agreement negotiations, maximize the amount of grant or free money to us that we could get. In this case, it's principal loan forgiveness, and incorporate strict environmental standards, 5.5, 1.5, or those things, and then water reuse. I want to misstate it every time because it changes every time. But that's where we're going into this. Go ahead next. We looked at all the available funding options. There's only one that provides any sort of loan forgiveness grant-like program. And it's through the Texas Water Development Board's Clean Water State Revolving Fund. There's other programs out there, but they're straight loans. No one's giving away free treatment plants. We ran into some restrictions as we talked about in prior updates. We could only propose a system that served current residents, existing households. We could not get to a point where we could do future needs. So if we had development agreement for Walton, let's say, it's going to put in 1,000 homes, we couldn't take that development agreement, which is signed in 2013, it's modified in 2019, but still allows for the city to provide wastewater treatment for that development. We couldn't use that as part of satisfying its current needs requirement. And so that going into conceptualizing this project, that was an assumption that we were very late in verifying, and we'll talk about how that impacts the lessons learned. The principal loan forgiveness comes out of several different sub-programs. Green initiatives give you like $1 million of loan forgiveness or other things. But the big one that makes a real substantial difference is the disadvantaged communities, which provide up to 70% of principal loan forgiveness. And that was our target, was that. That is based off of your qualifications for disadvantaged community, based off of annual median household income, AMHI, annual median of 75% of the statewide annual median household. As we learn, we'll talk about in our lessons learned, that distinction is somewhat different than what we've experienced with other similar programs that consider, community needs. And that affected us as we go forward. Also, the maximum forgiveness for 70%, only $10 million. That's a hard cap. You can't go beyond $10 million of principal loan forgiveness.
Wait, so
The loan can only be 10 million,
No, the amount that's forgiven can only be
so we
10
could
million.
bill 30 million, well, we never would need. Residents.
It would be about 14 and change million. And then 70% of that is 10 million. So every dollar above that $14 million number is unforgiven or not eligible for the 70%. And that became a significant restriction. The process, as we looked ahead, and was part of doing a project, the solicitation response, say comes up and said, who has projects? Our response is, here's a project information form. And that was what we intended to do with our engineering services. Go to the next slide.
Jerry, real
Yeah.
quick, on this one right here, how it says, your several forgiveness for the disadvantaged community.
Yeah.
And then disadvantaged community, annual median household income. So what this is projected, like, if we were to do this, the houses that would be coming onto it, are we saying that that's who that's gonna benefit?
no,
Not necessarily. This slide is really just the restrictions placed on the program, not on the project. So programming is statewide, like what your eligibility determinations are. As you develop your project plans, there are different methods to obtain what communities and houses and beneficiaries of the program would be. The state has a preferred method that's based off census tract data. That's what we used in our calculations as we went forward. You can do another option, but based on surveying. That surveying has to be pre-approved in advance, and really only realistic way to do it is to hire an outside surveyor to come out and survey the beneficiaries and where their median household income is, or where their household income is, and then help them. So based on where we were in the timeline, that surveying method, we were probably 9 months way behind. So that's really a 6-month or more project. 9 months if you really want to plan for it. A year if you want to be in a good position to not be crunched. So we just weren't in a position to use anything other than the census tract data. So the initial concept, as we considered all these restrictions, if we were going to do a project, we had to make sure it fit. Our initial concept was to acquire as many potential customers within the immediate area of the Martindale, put on our system so that we'd have sufficient customers to service any remaining loan balance and to drive up the number of gallons, tens of thousands of gallons, the equivalent units, living equivalent units that you need for your treatment plant to get it to a larger capacity size. So I instructed an engineer start working on a plan like this, and it was it rejected concepts based on leveraging development agreements or any potential future growth. It limited our risk that our plan would be denied on its face. So at least we'd have a fighting chance. This plan accounted for about 850 connections in total. That's including our current existing customer base. So about 650 to 700 more than what we have today. It maximized the use of our current infrastructure, try to mitigate flood damage or flood hazards related to Crockett Lift Station, that single point of failure in our system. And then try to use that for reuse. That's as we go forward to the next several slides, you'll see the same map and how it changes. You can keep going. I know it takes a little bit, how it keeps going from there. Engineers took that. A week later, they came up with a more detailed plan based off their preliminary engineering concepts that refined those initial direction that I gave them. This plan was presented to City Council February 15th. The key feature of this plan also allowed for potential integration with future growth through strategically placed lift stations and sewer lines that could accommodate gravity-fed mains into our system coming from our north, essentially. As we went forward, go to the next slide, you'll see how the orientation of the different sewer lines change. Following week, into February 23rd, revised the plans, and some of the sewer lines got a little more complicated because as we considered the topography of the land and trying to maintain that gravity flow as much as possible. Go to the next slide. So that got us, that was the plan that we had going into the final stages and when we went to write our form, our submission. The $10 million maximum principal forgiveness capped our total loan, and we, our project size, if you will, at $14 million, 285,000 change, right? So as a planning factor for the engineer, as we're going through our final revisions, I instructed them, we need to make sure our designs are underneath that 14,285 number. And then we ran into an issue on the annual median household income. There's two census tract areas in the city. The one that's south of Highway 80, one that's north of Highway 80. The connections, the area south of Highway 80 greatly exceeds that 75% threshold. The north side of Highway 80 is under that. It was to the point where for every, I think, let me go to the next slide. Yeah, here you go, it's depicted here. For every 10 household connections that you did south of Highway 80, you would need another 60, almost 60 north of Highway 80, so that the map would shake out to maintain below that annual median household income number, which for the state, 75% of is just about $55,000. That cut Spring River, Riverbend, Bella Vista out of the project right there. Going next. Then we got into the engineering costs, and so Freeland and Turk and their subcontractor started to build the detailed cost estimates for this, and it was very quickly growing. Even just the north of Highway 80 projected cost ended up being $29 million. And so then we were left with, okay, we have a couple of alternatives. We can focus on just doing a treatment plant and expanding our treatment plant. What that would entail was going to be keep our current lagoon system, have a land acquisition program to buy land, extend our 40 acres to say 80 acres, expand our irrigation system to the max, and maximize every drop of water we could fit and get out of those ponds. And that would probably get us to 200,000 LUEs, or no, 200,000 gallons per day. Right now we're operating about, current use about, I think you saw about 30,000 gallons in this. That would get us a few hundred, so I think what was it, 400 homes of additional capacity, significant. But as we considered it, it wasn't going to be big enough to really leverage, going back to our objectives, it wasn't going to be big enough to really leverage in a development. So we set that aside for a minute. We said, okay, what can we do? Or I guess 800 LUEs, so 600 more. The green project was, all right, what if you do the lagoon expansion and do more than just a treatment plant. What if you put in some sewer infrastructure? Thinking that might be beneficial for, in a development agreement. Problem was, that cost was $12 million itself. And it only acquired like a few hundred customers. And so although it would qualify, you get loan forgiveness and everything else, your loan balance would still be pushing close to $3 million with that remaining burden being placed on about 300 customers. And it would cause the rates charged to customers to cover that loan almost $80 a month. And so although we might be able to do it under the state's plan, it didn't seem feasible to go forward with that insane rates. And that's before we considered the monthly cost. It'd be well over $100 per month that we have to charge customers in order for this to work. It's been very clear since we've done our Vision Martindale 2025 and other things. People in Martindale don't want to be carrying the load for development. Developers need to carry their own load. So something like this really didn't make a lot of sense. And there wasn't be a lot of benefit. You're not getting a lot of bang for that buck. Blue project, about the same cost, about $1 million less, is $11.5 million. And that was just to do the Hobson Ranch, Butterfly Meadows. But that, and it would also, I don't know if that would include, I don't know if that would include the,
Skyview's not in the city, but.
Skyview, yeah, Skyview is. So, and that one was still gonna be expensive, still not enough customers to really make it worth it. And where we left was, do we spend $10,000 more in engineering to go forward with one of these plans that really doesn't accomplish any of the goals or objectives that city council gave to us up front, or we walk away? So the decision at that time was, we don't need to chase this any further with this one. It didn't make a lot of sense for us to continue to spend money on a project that didn't achieve what we set out to achieve.
I don't know if this would be the right time to discuss this.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a river guy, always will be a river guy. And, you know, by the way, I got on the TRPA board. I'm a board member for full disclosure. And, fortunately for me, David Price is president. And every time I talk to that man, I learn something. And there's something that everybody should know. A regular plant, San Marcos, state of the art, there are several things they cannot screen out of the water. That's pharmaceutical drugs, cancer drugs, that gets into the water supply. So if we're gonna take care of that river, there really needs to be a zero discharge. Because that's the only way you're gonna stop those contaminants from coming in. Okay, here's my other point, 2 other points. TCQ really wants a regional plant. Okay, and I don't know how we're gonna do it, but us being in Martindale, we need to somehow do a regional plant, and I don't know how we're gonna do it. But to do a on-site with a regional plant, just for what I just told you, to take care of that river, that was zero discharge. And there's another thing to add. Is everybody aware that up here on 142, up here in Maxwell, they're putting in a power plant? They're building it right now. Right now, natural gas.
Biggest one in
It's
Texas.
gonna be 10 generators. It's gonna be online in 26, 25.
25 is the first.
25, and then they're already gonna add another 10 generators, gonna be 20 generators, and that's gonna be in 27, and that takes a lot of water. That's why they built right there, because they got 2 power lines going to 2 substations, and the water line's right there. So the big scheme of things, we had a zero discharge, that water could go right to that power plant, just like they do in San Marcos. San Marcos, their treated sewage goes to that power plant that's south of town. Now, I don't know how in the heck we could ever get all parties involved, but it's for the benefit of the river and for the developing area to do some sort of regional plant with zero discharge. Now, that's kind of, how this really involves this conversation.
Well, how did the city fund Northwest River Road? You know what I mean? I mean, this doesn't make sense to me, you know, just from a big picture standpoint. It's like, yeah, I understand it costs a lot of money, but they don't want septic tanks on the river. So how the heck are we getting rid of septic tanks on the river without doing something along these lines? You know what I mean? You know, I mean, Northwest River Road got done and it didn't cost the taxpayer, you know, no one in town paid a penny. It was Connect, you know? So, I mean, I'm confused. There's gotta be a way to do this.
It might have been under there are programs out there for like micro treatment facilities and things like that. I know it was quite the effort to just expand the Northwest River Road connections to Skyview. And that was only a few $100,000. It was just shy of 300,000, 270, something like that. And I think it's just been real incremental, these small things. It's nothing on the scale that we went in expecting and hoping to achieve.
Laura, did you have a question?
I just had a quick question about the lessons learned. So regarding, like a lot of what I heard you discussing was, we're talking about the formulas that you were able to use and how you were able to fit it into the plans, given the time frame that you were on. And I'm just wondering what lessons you learned about the time frame.
So in terms of time frame, we started this project about September, August. And we ran into significant delays in just our fact finding on significant issues like, and we include development agreements, and we do perspective stuff, and we try to reach out through our networks, talk to our development board. I don't think we actually got them on a phone call until January, December, something like that. And even then, when we got them on a phone call, we weren't talking to people at the right level of expertise to give us the clarity of answers and direction that we needed to go forward. I think we ended up speaking to people who, here's how you submit the form online.
Right.
Like, no, I need to know who's like setting the policy on these issues, because it's a big determination. So those lessons learned, we're capturing them, they're valuable.
Oh, of course.
But if we're to go for something like this again, we need to start at least a year in advance.
Exactly.
And we need to go, we
need
need
to back
to go
calendar it
through.
because you've got now at least the information about how long it's gonna take you to get those answers, and alternatively, how long it takes to make the formulas happen that are alternative formulas to whatever is the easiest, like this is.
Yep.
So, I mean, I think that what a lot of times you can find is that if you use the alternative ways and you find sort of these backgrounds in, you can make a project work that wouldn't have, but you need at least a year ahead and then back calendar out to where you're starting from when it's due. Because that whole process is like this giant dance with bureaucracy that just leaves you with like really beat up feet from someone dancing on your toes, nothing like. So you just have to, I mean, I think the timing issues and of recognizing how long, the people that I've seen in grant writing that go for $1 million grants, the biggest problem that they have is not recognizing how long it's gonna take you to get from point A to point B. So you try and you end up not succeeding, but learning really valuable lessons that you can do the next time, as long as you do. But a lot of times by the next time this comes up, you're not ready because you're focused on something else. So like right now, get it on your calendar for next year, when you need to start and what you need to do, or whenever the council wants to pursue it again.
Yeah, the big one, the last bullet on here is you need several hundred customers to achieve a sustainable loan.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be achievable with a treatment plant. If
They're
you're
not
throwing,
letting
if
it
you're
do
throwing a
business.
treatment plant into the mix, you're not getting the sewer collection system. You can't do a sewer collection system without the treatment plant. And so we're really, basically what we've learned is this program is not a viable program for us.
Okay, but you have the cost now roughly to basically connect all these people right now.
Yes.
Okay, that I need to know. Okay, that I would like to know. Okay,
I guess-
specifically, because now we've got it, let me finish. So now we just got to find that funding mechanism that's going to,
That fits it.
that fits that, exactly. So if it's not this, then there's going to be another funding mechanism. So do we know what the cost of the wastewater plant was based upon, you were going for like 1,000 connection capacity type of a thing?
At one point, it was gonna be almost $40 million for all of it.
So I'll ask you later, I'll follow up with a breakdown of that.
For all of it. And what was,
That has increased, what was the estimation? It was like.
Yes,
10
I know.
million.
initially, we were thinking it was gonna be 15.
Yeah.
And then what started happening is with plugging in land acquisition was,
I'm talking about in the Walton Development Agreement,
that was $7 million, 6.7.
and that was with possibilities of expansion, but that was an estimation, that was what, in 2000,
17.
how can they be that far off?
Well, they weren't doing the whole collection system. They were just
They
doing,
weren't doing 552.58.
well, no, they were doing
Well,
something.
I don't trust those people on.
No, this isn't the development area. That's not their permit. This isn't their.
Well,
permit.
that's,
This is their
we're gonna go off.
Sorry.
So what they would have done essentially is in the green box minus the greenhouse road connections. It's a pipe from that corner of 142 and 80 off, I think, was it Morrison Creek? Yep. A pipe from Morrison Creek to our treatment location plus a treatment plant. That was estimated at that time,
Which was 7 years ago, inflation, but also that's 33 million.
Yeah, so I want to go back to one of the things you brought up earlier, when we were doing a budget about impact fees that we talked about. We can't charge more than our actual costs to do sewer connection. Are we allowed to do that? I mean, because I've talked to Steve over in the water and he's like, I can charge what I want. It is what it is, 13,000 or whatever it is. And you brought up before that there's some legislative limitations with regard to the true cost that there is. If we have you know where I'm going. If we have a sewer plant that we're trying to fund through another mechanism, are we gonna have a problem going in the future, charging this $15,000, $20,000 connection fee, go to the sewer because we're trying to pay for?
So that's where these straight loan programs probably come in.
Mhm.
But we're going to have some airtight contracts because you're playing a little bit of a game of chicken.
Yep.
Am I going to go get a loan, a $20 million loan, build a plant, and your homes aren't in place?
Hopefully they
And
come.
if your homes aren't getting connected, I'm not getting the impact fees.
Yeah, but I mean,
So you gotta have some.
No, I get you. I know where
But
you're
yes,
going.
there could be a scenario where we sign a development agreement, we don't have a plant in hand, but the development agreement is sufficient enough and phased enough
They can
to
start
where
up, get started.
we can speculatively go out and finance this thing for the purposes of treating that service and fund it through an impact fee. I think those sort of things are allowable. It's just a pretty choreographed dance that's
it's possible though, it's possible.
Well, you've got so many other developers, you know, relying on one at this point is,
No, there's
There-
five.
but
there's-
have-
yeah, you know better than
every-
me. I only know
Yeah.
one or
Every
two.
developer's on a different timeline and a different level of seriousness, right? Like.
Yeah.
Walton's had their development agreement since 2013. They're still farting around with their TCQ.
They're still going through the JCQ, and that's to our advantage
Yes.
because we already
But-
have a permanent plan.
And then you talk to these other developers and they think they're gonna put a house in the ground in 18 months.
Yeah.
And like, you're not doing that either. Right, so.
I understand, this is not getting resolved tonight, but I just wanna make sure we're still dancing, you know, we're still.
But I'm looking,
Next slide.
I'm looking Can I say real something real quick? I'm looking at a huge, big picture here. To do the right thing.
Yeah.
As a city and to protect this beautiful river. And as I said earlier, TCQ encourages a regional plant. And there's gonna be a shortage of water here, and we're gonna have water that we do not discharge in the San Marcos River. We need to have TCQ needs to come and help us. We need to have LCRA come and help. The big boys really need to come in and assist us. For example, LCRA at the 20 generator plant, they're gonna use a lot of water. So we gotta think big because again, this ain't Pflugerville, this ain't Dallas, this ain't Houston. It's Farmdale and San Marcos. So I, as a city council, I don't want that stuff going into our river.
But how many septics are supposed to be coming with Lanzola?
That's not-
150, 110, something like that.
110,
110?
That's all they could get in there, of the 169 acres?
1 acre rule.
They only can get 110.
That was a proposed
110.
subdivision they had put out.
So it's 169 acres.
So let me finish.
And-
Yeah, that's true.
One other point
Setbacks.
I was not finished yet. One other point. I've talked to David Price as an expert, and you know what's happening down on the coast right now? They're getting with counties and they're changing their standards. They're, instead of going 1 septic tank per acre, it's going to 4, a quarter acre or less. They're gonna get more septic tanks on less land.
Yeah, down in
They go in and all they have to do is get with the county and change the standards. So Lanzola could eventually come in and say, well, if we do all this, we're gonna put 4 septic tanks.
Well, that's the county. The
That's
county.
the county, that's what I'm saying. That's the county. So I'm saying it all goes back down to do the right thing. And let's try, how we're gonna do it. We got Smurf, we got Terry, we got other people that love this river. We all need to come together. How we're gonna do it?
We're gonna have to workshop private partnership agreements or development agreements.
But we have
Or you're doing a very choreographed dance with wastewater impact fees and hoping for the
Well,
best.
some people said Kanban was not possible, and I'll be damned, we did it. So I think we as a city, I don't know how.
The point is, the Texas Water Development Board
Okay,
programs where we're
I
getting
know about that.
free money, there's no free money on this.
okay.
We don't, it's not viable for us. So we've rejected private partnership, proposed agreements on private partners before. We've rejected development agreements before. We gotta start accepting something.
Yeah.
Because the thought was, well, forget them.
Well, so far,
We're gonna try to do this on our own.
Well,
I'm telling, we can't do it on our own.
that's exactly what my point is. But we do have a permanent evaporation pond system that does have some capacity left. These developers, we do the right development agreement, let them tap in and then have some ironclad contract. And a mud lawyer comes in, an expert comes in, and we make sure we tell them that they don't screw us. So
But the problem is you're playing with market speculation. Like your home builder's gonna wait to build the homes and and they're gonna build homes at a rate that makes the most sense based on what the market conditions are. You know, people were building, neighborhoods in a matter of weeks, right before the rates changed. And guess what? They backed up. Now they're probably picking up a little bit, but it's hard to come up with, some sort of agreement when you have a loan service you're paying for up front, unless they're carrying that service. And then what collateral is going on that loan?
Yeah.
You're going,
all development.
if it's just a municipality and a development agreement, you're basically going to need that developer to co-sign that loan for you, probably. Otherwise, you're putting all of our property taxes at risk on that loan. And so you could, if you screw it up, you could bankrupt the city real fast.
There are, and I know it because I'm in the business, there's an equation to it, and it will come to us, but it's timing, as we were talking earlier, and we're way behind the ball right now. And the problem is, and you know, we want to have these demands, and I think everybody on the council here wants to protect that river.
Oh, I will.
Oh, I
And I
know,
will
I know.
fight I will right now on record. I will make sure.
I hear you, I hear, but
We all know, Mike.
we don't really have the leverage to
Oh,
be
we
put.
do have the leverage because we have.
We gotta start fishing.
We have a treatment
We
plant.
gotta start fishing. 'Cause
Gotta think out of the box, guys.
We're
We've got a
full.
treatment plant, a viable treatment plant that has capacity. And
Well,
they can
this is-
start, let me finish. They could start development, like Grafton, they could start development. We have, 100 homes or whatever we got, they could hook up and start their development.
But Grafton didn't want to get annexed into the city.
Well, no, we're talking maybe.
So those are where, like, that exact conversation, we need to workshop it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because
exactly.
We gotta either jump on that train yesterday or
Be a workshop, I agree.
go to something else.
I agree.
Because there's an equation, we just gotta figure it out.
Yeah. And you need the information up front, not like as it happens.
But we have an opportunity to do the right thing. We have an opportunity.
Yeah,
There's an opportunity.
Subject to your question, that concludes my brief.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I went to executive session.
Okay.
You have a choice.
Are there any more questions about this?
No.
Don't ask.
You understand?
Who's protecting the river?
Yeah.
No.
Who's that?
I know, any, it's on its own.
Folks, I lived here since 1978. I would not swim in that river back in the 70s. It was massive. And that's what happens when you don't control these swimming pools.
I lived in Cleveland, Ohio, and that river caught on fire.
I know. We want that on the San Juan River.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a few minutes break and then we'll go into executive. It is 8:47 right now.
That way you want did we end the executive session?
Taking notes in the executive session, but I'm gonna rip them.
Okay.
Because I know I can't.
Did we
take
get out of
them.
executive session, or we good?
Are we back in? He has to go live. Okay, yeah,
I told you.
we
go
are
background.
back in regular session.
All right, I make a motion to adjourn at 9:47.
Yeah.
I second.
I wanted to do it.
Okay, all in favor to adjourn, please say aye.
I.
There you go.
Any opposed? Okay.